Siddhartha.
1 second, Deepa ma'am. Yeah.
All of us know that Siddhartha had left his royal home or palace and left his family behind to go forth alone to seek enlightenment. Right? He left his wife and child behind. After he leaves, Yashodhara was in deep shock and denial. Right? So I want you all to pay attention at this graph on my left side. So she was in deep shock and denial, right? Then she goes through these stages of grief: anger, bargaining, depression. Finally, she comes to the mode of acceptance here. All of us will go through these stages when we are hit by the grief, right? So here, even Yashodhara is going through all these things. Acceptance here means is not necessarily a happy or uplifting stage of grief, right? So it doesn't mean you have moved past the grief or the loss. Here it means she has accepted it and have come to understand what it means in her life now. Right? So that is the meaning of acceptance here. Usually, here, look at this picture here. Usually what happens when the grief hits, people think that the size of the grief will slowly get smaller and smaller, right? It shrinks and diminishes, right? But in reality, the grief stays, but slowly the life begins there, right? In the initial stage, the grief or whatever that suffering is there, it looks very, very big. But with time, right, it seems diminishing. Is it that so? No, the grief will stay the same, right? The size of the grief or the void or that emptiness will be the same, but we start moving towards other direction, or we are diverting our mind and our life begins slowly there, right? You will grow around the grief, right? So the same thing is happening with Yashodhara also here, right? So you will have to have new experiences when you accept the thing, right? You will face new experiences, meet new people, and begin to find moments of enjoyment, right? Slowly, it starts happening. Slowly, these moments may grow more frequent and the outer circle will grow little bigger, right? In reality, the size of the grief will be the same, right? So this is the case with Yashodhara also, because first time she is tasting this suffering, right? So when Pajapati asked her to come and sit there in the circle of women, right? So there, her condition, her emotions were different, right? What she was thinking, my grief itself being abandoned, that feeling was there, right? So she was feeling that thing. My grief is bigger than anybody else in the world. Why should I listen to others? What is there to listen, right? So when she has accepted the grief, from that moment onwards, she came to an understanding that it's about all of us will have suffering. It's about how we live and walk through it, and how we meet others in the suffering and walk together, right? So this was her understanding here. Now, what I'll be taking the embracing part and the responsibility. How she took the responsibility of her family and the community, how she has embraced her grief, right? And achieving the awakening by staying back. Right. So in my couple of sessions, I'll be talking about the embracing part and the responsibility she has taken. Right. So she walks the different path parallel to what Siddhartha is going forth. She is staying back here. Right. Suffering cannot be denied, but has to be woven skillfully into the fabric of both joy and sorrow. Let us see how she is weaving her life with these joy and sorrow, right? So here, I would like to mention this, I would like to talk about a little bit about this extended family, what the support she has got from that family, right? So here, the family is a system of mutual influence and experience, right? So here, the father-in-law and the mother-in-law, they will become her parents, right? From in-laws to, they'll become her parents. They are there for her, right? So let us move into this actual story here. All of us know that she was going through all these emotions. She is in deep grief, humiliation, being abandoned, resentment. All these emotions are there, right? So few years later, after this, few years later, what happens? Shuddhodana, he will send messages to Yashodhara. 3 times he will send the message. He wants to meet her alone. He said it was time for her to marry again to replace Siddhartha and provide a father to his grandson. Yashodhara knew that she was still in love with Siddhartha, right? So in the beginning, she did not answer the king. She was very, very quiet a couple of times. But the third time, she refused him, right? So now the king was angry at Siddhartha, right? And daughter-in-law, Yashodhara also, right? Because she refused him to marry again, right? She was more intent on her own survival and her devotional practice as a mother. Right? So here, I appreciate the broad-mindedness and the concern he has got for his daughter-in-law and the grandson. Imagine, this is the story of 2,500 years back, right? So Shuddhodana's broad-mindedness, he wants her to marry again, right? He'll ask her, but she refuses, right? So, and they play the role of parents here, not in-laws, but the parents, right? So the family support plays an important role, especially the extended family, though the pros and cons are there, right? We will look at the positive side of this, right? So helping her at the right time, right? So this was the family support she got from that family, her family, right? Now she calls this family support or whatever she is doing here, right? She is there with all these people, with her family and her community, palace people, right? She calls this as a devotional practice. Look at this, her emotion there, right? Siddhartha is not there. She has to take care of the family, right? She has accepted it, right? And now she calls it as devotional practice. And she says devotional practice must be made as conscious choice and an expression of service. Not slavery to the household, but not simply out of necessity or obligation. Many of us will fail to understand this concept here, right? For the sake of doing, we are doing it. Many of us, right? So she says with it has to be conscious choice, taking care of our family members, and an expression of service. Here, look at that feeling, right? So here, what we in our culture, what we do, we will be giving all the things and doing all for a guru, right? We will offering that practice we have, right? But what she says is not to the guru, but to the ordinary people we live with. We have to offer for them, to whom we are living, right? So to do this practice without the circle of care would be isolating. Without the circle of care would be isolating and dangerous. Nowadays, what we are doing, we don't have this circle of care, right? So that is the reason we are facing all these problems: loneliness, depression, no one is there for me kind of feeling, right? She is giving a solution for all of us here, right? We have to have the circle of care, and we have to take care of our family, and as a devotional practice, as an expression of service, we have to be there for our family, right? So whatever this householding or caretaking became a true devotional practice for her, right? Then this famous Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh says, in the flower is the compost, in the compost is the flower, right? The same thing she has discovered here. In the understanding of impermanence, there is always life arising and life falling away. Yashodhara says, I found this with my son and my mother holding birth and death so close to me at that time. Her mother, in last session, Madhu ma'am was talking about her mother, Pamita, right? She was seriously ill. She has to take care of that mother, right? And the newborn baby also there. She's playing the middle part there, right? She's holding the hand of this elder ones also. She's taking care of the younger one also in the family, right? So we all must learn to be midwives of the new, bringing forth the creative spirit, and also caregivers of the dying, helping those who are living to do so with grace and wisdom. And she asked this question: is this not the most fundamental teaching of impermanence? Right? So she says, being with these people, right, holding the hands of both younger one and the elder one in the family, this practice is very, very fundamental practice, right? To be called forth into life, not called away alone. I repeat, to be called forth into life, not called away alone, right? So learning to be with suffering of those we love and with our own suffering right here, right now, at home, right? Still, she is not accepting the Siddhartha's this thing, right? She's angry. Though she has accepted the grief, but in her inner feeling is she's showing the angriness towards the Siddhartha here. She's telling this should be our fundamental practice. First, that has to be devotional. Then this is the fundamental practice. You need not go anywhere, right? This is the only devotional practice, she says. She's following all these dharma, whatever these duties we have, no, towards swadharma, kutumba dharma, and soul, this thing, soul dharma, right? So all these things she is following there, right? So she's narrating this story to her friends there, women in the palace, right? So even this Gautami, Kisa Gautami is also there in that circle. She is also part of that circle. And this she asked this Yashodhara, Buddha saved my life. I myself understood then. He's teaching. And now you're saying that there is something else. And that is here in the circle. It is here in the circle. Yashodhara replies that Gautami is very much surprised what it is, right? What is there? She says, Yashodhara says beautifully, each of us has our own path. And yet because of our already having walked our life in relation with others, caring for others, being with others, and learning from that being with, we have something else to offer, right? We are practicing all these things, but at the same time, we have to offer it to others also, right? How she asked these questions. Look at this question, beautiful question. How a young monk told you that it was all about impermanence. She's asking this question to Gautami there, Kisa Gautami. How a young monk means without having any experience, without experiencing any of these things, right? So she shows her frustration also there in that question, right? I want you to feel her emotions here, right? We have to wear her shoes here, take her position and feel her emotions here. How a young man, because that means she is proud of her path. She's proud of her teaching. She's proud of herself, right? And she says, let us help each other find our true way, right? So, yeah. Now, Rahula was, they are describing this child here. Now he is 5 years old and his hair is silky black and he had dark eyes and a magical life. He'll be in his own world, right? He's growing. Since Siddhartha had left, sickness, sorrow, aging, and death had come openly to the palace. All of us know that Siddhartha, Shuddhodana was protecting the palace, right, from this suffering, right? He did not allow this suffering to enter his palace. He was protecting. We all know this story, right? Now, Siddhartha is not there in the palace. All these things have entered the palace, right? So the king was more silent now. Shuddhodana is more silent, no longer trying to protect his household from the natural sufferings of life. He became more and more intent on his grandson. Now he wants to concentrate on his grandson, right? He was reconciled with Yashodhara and relied on her calming presence, right? He stopped speaking of her remarrying. He is now very silent. He wants to concentrate on his grandson there, right? And this Yashodhara and Pajapati have become the healers in the community there. Right? So now Yashodhara is becoming more respected and honored in the palace community. A leader in the circle of women who continued their practice of sitting together. Right? They called this practice as that circle. They were sitting in that circle, right? So that they called it as sitting with practice, sitting together practice, right? So now these people are have become the healers in that community, right? Comforting those who came to them in need, regardless of caste or class, right? This is how she is evolving, right? And now the practice they were doing, sitting with that practice in that circle, they were sitting in the midst of nature, right? On the ground and eye to eye on the same level. This is most important here, same level, right? So all they are sitting with other species also, birds, animals, plants, minerals, everything there, right? So being present and attuned to each other, right? So she says here, we offered our presence, listening deeply and being with a person in a mindful way. This is the most important part here, right? And allow the creative energy of communion and right relation to arise. Listening deeply is most important part here, right? Your presence, you are there for each other, right? Showing compassion, right? So being in awareness, they are finding solutions for every problem there in that circle, right? So while doing this, what they found here in the circle, they held the circle together with compassion and awareness, and they found out the solutions for the every problem there, right? So here they say, over the period of time, Pajapati and I found that our practice, this growing out of our circle experience, could work even just two people, right? As long as the principles were still followed. Even if there are two people in that discussion, that is okay, they say, right? So here the concept of circle can be applied anywhere, right? Even if there are two, that is okay. That discussion is important. Caring for each other, being there, listening deeply. That is the most important thing here, not the number, right? So in that sitting practice, it was like establishing the mind and heart coherence, right? So they were there with those sufferers there, they're helping others, right? And opening the mind and the heart. That establishment, they are doing it here. Mind and heart coherence, right? Here she says beautifully, now she has become the hero or Shiro, whatever you call, right? When she was hurt, right? And with the help of these women in that circle, right? So she pulled out her inner strength, right? Whatever that strength was there, it was hidden inside her, right? When she was there with these sufferers, when they exchanged mutual sharing they did, that time she realized that she had this ability, she had this quality of counseling the people, right? So till that time, she didn't know that she has got this capacity, right? So when she was there with those sufferers, she found that something else, something new seemed to happen within us, around us, and between us. It was not only the sufferer who was getting the benefit out of it, but even Yashodhara was evolving there as a counselor, as a guide. right? So Pajapati and Yashodhara called this circle as practice as sitting with practice, right? And one more beautiful thing she says is here. So this was the part of my life that I came to see had rooted and budded, if not yet flowered, in the soil of my suffering and become my greatest gift to others. Look at this. So she says she has sowed the seed, or she has planted this plant, right? Slowly it is started giving the buds, not the flowers yet, but she's proud of her path here, right? And she has done this work those years back, 2005 years back. Now we are harvesting it, right? So on her soil of her suffering, these flowers, we are harvesting these things, meditation, all these techniques, whatever she has used, those things long back, right? Beautifully, she has given all these things, all these teachings to us, right? So here, how she has managed this suffering. She has learned all these things, how to manage suffering, how to live with suffering, right? She is not going away. She is not running anywhere, right? Even she had all these options, right? Whatever options we have now, whatever negative things we will think, all these things she had, but she stayed back and she's growing around the grief, right? So she was acquiring the talent, right? And how to counseling the people and on management of suffering. She's acquiring that talent here, and she has become the counselor in the community. People are coming towards her for the solutions here. She was not only listening to others and guiding, even at the same time, she was getting something else from that community, from that group, right? So she has given this beautiful framework, how she has grown around her grief. In the beginning, when Vindhya ma'am started that story, how she was there. Pajapati was trying to console her, right? She was helping her there. Pajapati was helping her, right? How she was not ready to come out of that room itself, right? But slowly, she has accepted, and she's taking this path here, right? So after having done her learning, Yashodhara matured into become a counselor, good counselor. She has given this beautiful framework of what all she has learned here, right? So how she has grown around her grief, that is most important thing. So growing around grief is another way of looking at grief and recovery. Growing around grief means what? Another way of looking at grief, another way, right? And recovery. What all she has done? When she was sitting with other women in circle, she has developed all these qualities. What are those qualities? She has developed these core values, individual values, and the family values, right? So core values means here she has learned all this, she has developed all these qualities here: loyalty, honesty, commitment, consistency, efficiency, right? And family values, all of us know that kindness, compassion towards the elders there, right? Integrity, mutual respect, honesty, right? So she is developing these qualities here. And individually also she is growing along with the community, right? Along with the family, she is individually she's evolving, right? So she has acquired these qualities. Courage. In the beginning, it was not there. She has acquired this courage. Friendship. She gave her helping hand to her friends. Naila, Channa, Kisa Gautami, so many friends, right? She showed empathy towards others. She had this right understanding, empathy towards others, right? She was able to acquire all these things, core values, individual values, and the family values here. This is what makes the ordinary extraordinary, isn't it? So this journey, since she has accepted, her growth has been in the following these areas: core values, individual values, and the family values, right? So she has managed her wisdom post the suffering, right? This wisdom can be used by all of us. Even we entered this meditation, most of us, when we were suffering from one or the other thing, right? Whatever the problem it is. But now, when we have completed this spiritual tablet course, even we are moving on the same path here, counseling others. We are taking that responsibility, right? Even we are acquiring those qualities, right? She has given this path to all of us. So this is the beautiful progression of Yashodhara, right? And one more thing I would like to mention here, we can see these concentric circles, right? So here, one more concept is ripple effect, right? So all of us know these ripples, right? When we throw the stone in the stagnant water or the body of water, it creates ripples. The same way, the grief also creates some ripples, right? So if we don't give much attention to this grief ripples, what happens? The person will go into depression or other kind of negative things, suicidal thoughts or illness or whatever it is, right? So right time we have to identify it. That is the most important thing here. Pajapati, at the right time, she brought her out, right? So we have to take the support of other people. If not, the damage will be huge, right? So the same way, we have the positive ripples also, like negative ripples, we have the positive ripples also. So here she has developed all these qualities, right? Core values, individual values, family values, right? So like a ripple, all these values are spreading to others in that circle, in that entire community there. She's spreading that instead of the negative part, instead of the suffering, instead of the grief, right? She started spreading these values to others, right? This is the beautiful transformation from that Yashodhara to this Yashodhara, counselor Yashodhara, healer. She has become the healer here, right? How she got this strength? That circle, that community gave her the strength here, right? So this is how sometimes what happens. It is important to realize that while each grief process is unique, we know that, right? There is a form of grief that is disabling or interfering with the function and quality of life. This prolonged, complicated grief response tends to be chronic and persistent in the absence of targeted interventions and may be life-threatening, right? So that is why at right time we have to identify, we have to take help of others, right? And we have to come out of that grief. If somebody else is suffering, we have to help them, right? At the right time. That is important. Otherwise, the damage will be huge. We have to suffer. Right? So this is how Yashodhara was able to grow around the grief. Right? She has started her journey parallel to what Siddhartha was going forth. She stayed back and she has started this journey. Now, look at this. We will look at this relationship of Pajapati and Shuddhodana with Yashodhara and Rahula. They devoted all their attention to Yashodhara and Rahula. Their commitment was towards their daughter-in-law and the grandson there. Right? Pajapati has supported Yashodhara like her own daughter only. Right? So here, Yashodhara also, she has taken the responsibility of her son and the family and the whole community there. Right? She is there with them. She is supporting them. Right? So she gave helping hands to her friends. She was maintaining all these relationships with others. Right? She is taking care of the young one, elders in the family. She's taking care of the community. Right? She is devoting her time, energy, everything there. Right? So when you are undergoing such challenges in your life, in that direction, I'm going to raise these questions. To start with, what are your devotional oaths and commitments, and to whom? Right? Like Yashodhara, how did she did, and how these parents were there, right? There's a mother-in-law and father-in-law, right? And how this Naila, this Yashodhara took care of her friends as well as the entire community here, right? So like that, she was there with all these members, right? She was helping her despite of this, whatever this thing has happened to her. She is there for everyone here, right? So like that, that first question to all of us, right? If you are a parent, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Here, Pajapati took that step of helping Yashodhara. Being a mother, what happens in our day-to-day life? Even mother, she could have taken that step, what Yashodhara was going through. Even she had got that grief, right? He was her son. But Yashodhara took, this Pajapati took bold step there, right? She kept all her emotions aside, and at the right time, she is helping Yashodhara here, right? That is her strength. Even this Shuddhodana was reluctant in the beginning, right? That was his weakness there. He was not ready to accept Yashodhara's views, right? So that is his weakness here. But these two ladies have shown their strength there as a parent. Even Yashodhara, as a single parent, she has to take care of her child now. She has taken this responsibility, right? She is there for her son now, right? That is her strength there. The same way, what are your strengths and weaknesses as a parent? Do you have the community of other parents? What community do you need to find or develop to support your particular challenges? Right? So these questions, we can discuss these things on 13th, right? These are beautiful questions to discuss, right? Though she has given the solutions there. Now, what we are going to do, right? I'll leave with this thing. Next, we'll move on to the next portion of the story. Here, by Rahula's 6th birthday, the king determined that the boy would train to become a warrior. He wanted him to become his successor there, Shuddhodana. Right? He had tried to control Siddhartha the same way. Right? But what happened there? He wanted to control, but the outcome was contrary to what he had desired. Right? We all know this. The same thing he's going again, he's repeating here with his grandson. Right? But he wanted to send Rahula away from these two ladies. Right? So Yashodhara and Pajapati, they were quite sure that the path of this warrior was not in the gentle child's nature. They knew this. Right? So they were not ready to send him away from the palace. These two, mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law. Right? They requested him, and temporarily, this Shuddhodana says, I'll wait for one more year before issuing the final command. He said, I'll give you one more year of chance. Right? So by listening to all these things, Rahula was, he came to Yashodhara in distress. Right? When he came to her, she would listen to him carefully and reassure him that his father would return someday to guide him to the right path. Look at her confidence, trust in Siddhartha. Right? Some other day, she was very sure he will come and he wants him to guide. Right? She is not taking any step here. And she is not allowing Shuddhodana also to take any step. Right? He's waiting. She is waiting, eagerly waiting for Siddhartha to come back. Right? She is hoping for the best here. As we say, hope is a fuel of our life. Right? She's doing that thing. Somehow, against all these signs, right? She hoped and believed that he would return, though doubt and confusion visited her heart. That doubt was there, right? But in spite of all that, those things, she says he will come one or the other day, and she wants him to guide. Right? How look at her trust in Siddhartha. Whatever he has done to her, in spite of all these things, right? So this is about she's giving personal attention towards her son here, right? Now Siddhartha is not there in the palace. She had ceased trying to stay connected with Siddhartha through all these practices, austerity practices, as a trial and error method. She wants to try this also. What he is doing there, let me try this here. That means he has left all these things because of he wants to find out some solutions there, right? For suffering. What is there? Why he is doing all these things? Let me try this also here in the palace, right? Not eating after midday, sleeping on the raw earth, wearing these yellow robes. She started this practice there, right? So earlier she was comfortable in the palace. She has seen that life also. Now she is practicing this life also, right? But she was not happy there. These things did not give her much pleasure, these austerity practices, right? Nor that comfortable pleasure what she got from in that palace, right? They did not, both the things did not give her lasting peace, right? So what she was looking for some moment of clarity and transition in her life, right? So Siddhartha had disappeared. He walked far away into the mountains and deserts, right? No one knew that where he is, where he has gone, not even Chenna, his close friend. But right, so she was waited. She didn't have another choice, right? She had to wait for the next moment there. Now, the most interesting part is Channa brought the news of Buddha's awakening, right? So by hearing this, Prajapati and Yashodhara, shocked and overwhelmed, they burst out laughing, right? Despite this profound event, look at this, because he's coming back. They are thinking, right? They are coming back. He got awakened and he's coming back because he is Prajapati's son, Yashodhara's husband, and Rahula's father. Their emotions are different. Something is going in their mind, right? So Buddha Channa says this thing has happened. This took place in Bodh Gaya, near holy city of Benares. Right? He sat in meditation under Bodhi tree for 39 days and was transformed into Buddha. Right? The awakened one. Buddha means the awakened one. Right? So from then onwards, he started giving the Dharma talk, right? Then to a huge gathering there, right? And what he was teaching, 4 noble truths and eightfold path, which offered any true seeker a path to the end of suffering. Any true seeker, a path to the end of suffering, right? So this here, Lumbini is his birthplace, right? So he has walked all these things. Bodh Gaya is here, he has come here. From Lumbini to, he has traveled in search of this wisdom, right? One day, finally, he became Buddha now. So now what is he doing after this? Right? He started preaching, he started traveling, right? From one village to another village, and he is attracting a huge, great attention here. Right? Hundreds and thousands of people are walking towards him. Right? So he walked the Ganges plain and giving the Dharma talks to large gatherings from all walks of life, including the caste of untouchables, right? So this is how he started his journey. And look at this. This thing is beautiful here. This news awakened deep happiness within Yashodhara. She's feeling very happy for Siddhartha now. He has become Buddha now, right? So with these thoughts, she was very happy. Suddenly, again, all these negative emotions will fill her mind. Betrayal, anger, all those things, that searing loss, hurt rose up again in her mind. She is in that duality now. She's happy for Buddha, Siddhartha, right? But now she has got so many questions in her mind. Who was he now? Right? That relationship with him is very, very confusing for her now. Earlier, he was her husband, but now who is he now for me? What was their marriage now? Now that his inquiry was complete, would he return? He'll come back to the palace and he'll stay with us? Right? All these questions are there. Right? That frustration, everything, again, it comes back to her mind. Right? But at the same time, she realized that, right, for her son, whatever these things were happening between Shuddhodana, grandson, in the absence of Siddhartha, right, because of this widening crisis, she had to keep quiet. Right? That mind is fluctuating there. It is going back and coming forth. Right? She's feeling both the things, happiness as well as all these negative emotions there. Right? So with this, once she was sitting in the royal orchard, watching all the peacocks and everything there, she found that she is evolving spiritually in her practice of being with. Right? But she was bringing something new to it. Right? She is observing self introspection. She's doing it here. right? When she is sitting in the nature, look at this, right? She has found out all these things on her own, all these, whatever we are practicing today, right? So she might be she's against her son becoming warrior, right? That what is the meaning of inner meaning of that? She might be embracing the spiritual life for him. Look at her strength there, her emotional strength. One side, she has got all these questions here, whether Buddha will come back or not. The other side of it, she's ready to send her son to that path, right? That is why she is resisting Shuddhodana, right? So she observes that the power, she has got this, acquired this power to resist, right? So that is because of that spiritual practice. She says, I got this power to resist because of that circle there, right? So let me summarize this thing. In the beginning, she was a sufferer here. She was suffering when Siddhartha had left, right? Afterwards, she started walking towards her family. She started taking care of her family. She called it as the devotional practice of staying with. She stayed back here, right? Now she has embraced the responsibility, right? She has taken care of the younger one and the elder one here in the family. Also, as a trial and error method, she practiced this austerity, right? And now she's there in the circle, right? Helping others, right? So she has started being with practice, it is, right? Now, then she says, the soil of my suffering and became the greatest gift to others. That is the gift she has given to us, right? Now she is proud of herself there, and she is reassuring her son. She hoped for his return, right? Now, afterwards, she hears the Buddha's awakening news, right? With this, she is feeling very, very happy, right? She is very happy for Buddha. And towards the end of it, she started her journey, right? She was suffering here. She was a sufferer here in the beginning. Now, with all this, her progression was in this path, right? Now, towards the end of this session, these chapters, whatever chapters they have given in the book, beautifully they have given, they have woven this story. Now, Yashodhara, finally, she has become the counselor, healer, best guide, and she has becoming more respected and honored in the circle, that palace. She has become the leader, not only the queen, right? She has become the leader there, who continued, both of them, Pajapati as well as this Yashodhara, right? Who continued that practice of sitting together. So these are the my own reflections on this portion of the story here. In today's world, we have many Yashodharas, right, who are living around us. What we have to do, all we need to do is look around and appreciate those people around us for their strength and courage. We have to bring out that strength. They'll be having, everyone will be having that strength and courage, right? We have to bring it out. So this path, this Yashodhara's path, staying back, being back, offers a timely and much needed guide for contemporary living, right? So Sajjana Sangatya is the most important aspect of spirituality and turns out to be a healer, right? So that is why what happens there, if we are there in the circle, we should always listen to the experience of others, right? We'll be listening and we'll be sharing our story also, right? When you listen to others, when you are sharing the story with others, you will gain confidence and you will come out of that fear. And the most important thing is your ego erodes by the wisdom that they are sharing, right? So even we can build the better network. Even I can do this kind of feeling, right? When Yashodhara is able to come out of her grave, she has found her way. Why can't we? Nothing is impossible in this world, right? So, and many more reflections are there like this, right? So here the authors are talking about the importance of other mothers, right? What are the important things here we have, right? She has taken the help of her circle there, right? So what are the importance of this other mothers there in the circle, right? So she took the help from others, right? So accompaniment of others, especially other mothers and older mothers in that circle. Everybody were there, aunts, older mothers, everyone, right? She has taken the help of others. So here, the psychologist Shelley Taylor and others have described an alternative survival strategy to response to stress for women. Usually what happens, what we do in case of emergency, we take this fight or flight mode, right? Instead of that, nowadays, women are taking this, they are showing this tend and befriend response for stress, right? So the tend means immediately we will try to protect ourselves. We will try to take care of ourselves in that particular situation, emergency case. But later, befriend means we will be talking to someone else over the phone, right? We will be asking for help, right? So instead of that means social isolation is threatening. We have experienced these things in this last COVID time, social isolation. So instead of that, instead of talking to others, what we have to do, we have to engage ourselves in these birthday parties or traditional parties, right? So that kind of thing we need here, right? So initially we will show that strength, courage, everything, but later we'll be asking, seeking help from others there. We'll waste our time there over the phone talking to others. Instead of that, physical attending those parties and those things, social isolation is very, very threatening, right? We have experienced this. And one more important thing is, in this contemporary world, grandparents often are central in the creating this circle. They are holding both their adult children and grandchildren together at the center of their heart and home. This is what they did, this grandparents here, right? So here in our day-to-day life also, these our grandparents also, they are doing the same thing, right? So one more psychologist here, she writes for blood mothers and other mothers, child rearing mothers, right? So Pajapati is child rearing mother here, right? How beautifully she has changed the concept what we had, the stepmother concept, what we used to hear, right? 2000 years, 500 years back, she has changed this. She has become the best mother-in-law, right? And she has taken the care of her grandson also there, right? So one of the young mother says, we desperately need each other. Yet the lack of time and my fear and shame in asking for help, that is the most important point here. Shame in asking for help kept me silent and apart. This is what we are doing it. Lack of time, we don't have time. And fear of asking others, shame. That is why we are not getting timely help from others. We have to be open, right? So other psychologist writes this beautifully. She has written, you are born to one mother, and if you are lucky, you will have more than one, and among them you will find most of what you really need, right? All these other mothers we will get in a joint family, all our aunts and other family members there, other mothers, the importance of other mothers, right? I think it's 7:30. I'll share my own example in my next class. right? So with this, I'll conclude this today's session. Yeah, now I'll open for discussion for 5 minutes or so. Otherwise, we will discuss it later on 13th. Thank you everyone for patient listening.